And joining us now is Samantha Ball. She is the Senior Research Associate at the University of Utah's Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. And we also have Utah Project Lead for the Dignity Index, Tammy Pfeiffer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So I know a lot of the focus people have been having is on the Senate. Can you tell us a little bit on what you guys looked at this week?
So we looked at messages mainly from live interviews, whether they were speaking to a live audience or television interviews from the Senate candidates.
What made you guys decide to analyze that specifically?
Part of it was so much action happening in the Senate race that wasn't happening in the House races. And the other part was just we've looked at all of the other medium. We've looked at social media, we've looked at campaign fundraising, email, we looked at the debates, and this was just one thing that we had not exactly honed in on.
One thing you guys noted is that, you know, for certain people you gave them more ratings than other people. Why is that as far as rating different pieces of speech?
So, and you can help with this, Samantha.
Yes.
Some parts of the language are easier to code, right?
And I think for some of there's a lot of money coming into this race.
Right.
There's a lot of speech that's potentially codable, and in some of the other campaigns, that's not the case, and so there aren't as many things out there for us to code. So we were trying to be pretty balanced on that, and yet this was the one that kind of floated to the top in terms of just sheer volume.
I can imagine this was extremely challenging, and we're just days away from the election. With this being something that you tried out this year, what have you learned along the way?
Do you want to start?
I'll start. I've learned a ton.
Yeah,
we've learned a ton. What the thing that's been so surprising to me, Courtney, is that people are reacting to this in a way that I hadn't quite anticipated, where they're looking at it and they're welcoming it. I get emails or text messages that say, we really need this, I really need this, and they're applying this scale to themselves. And I'm one of those people that think, I do pretty well, and then I start looking at the scores for a 3 or a 4, and it's like, oh, sometimes it's, in my mind, it's me or them. I'm the good person, they're the person that doesn't know what they're talking about. And so people are applying it to themselves, and it's been really eye-opening for me.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for all of us to kind of reflect on our own behavior. As the days have gone on, have you seen a change in the tone as far as how people are communicating? Has it gotten nastier, or is it seeming pretty consistent at this point?
What are you seeing on the coding? I know we found some higher scores this time.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because in some ways we're breaking down speech from different parts. So we've got social media one week and we've got interviews another week, and it's hard to know if it's actually the type of speech that we're looking at or if it's the time in the campaign that we're looking at. But
if you ask the average person driving down I-15, passing the billboards, right, and which I hadn't noticed before, or they hadn't been putting those messages up before, it's intensifying. I think it's intensifying a little bit.
Some people have talked about the difference between a challenger and an incumbent as far as their strategy. Have you seen a difference in tone for someone who's trying to keep their position versus someone who's trying to take over a position?
In most of the cases that we've had, we've seen similar scores from both candidates. And there's usually a range, some on the dignity side of the index and some on the non-dignity side. Some of the same types of reasons why it would be on the non-dignity side is kind of portrayal of the other person in terms of like a mocking tone or that type of thing at the lower end of the kind of contempt side of the scale. But then both candidates have also managed to bring a dignified look to some of the issues, and that's always good to see.
And that's the goal that you guys have. All right, Tammy Pfeiffer and Samantha Ball, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's toss it back over to Emily.